Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the Final Fantasy XII Ultima project, where last time, as you remember, we went and did a lot of the detailing up in the top kind of chest area, and we came down with this piece that came down all the way to the bottom. And our goal this time is now to do the detailing, the kind of the gold leaf that goes along the bottom fringe of the dress. And then as long as that goes well, I would actually like to start getting the framing, at least, of the wings that come out on either side of her over here. So I would like to get at least a start on that going. But first, we need to go and we can move you up here. And if you remember last time, this whole mid portion here was kind of very symmetrical, very kind of systematic. Each notch was the same size. Everything was just kind of bim bam boom. We have that going up in. If we're going to see on the bottom here, look towards the side image there, the bottom is a little more freeform. There is no definitive kind of system that goes on. You have some peaks and valleys are really shallow, some are a little deeper. So we have a little bit more playroom going on with that. I'm just going to keep you here because it's not really much to show on that part. So we do have a little bit of playroom on that. However, when I was looking at it, we have, to get an idea of the major peaks and valleys, if we come down inside, the shadow's not helping things. But if we take from the bottom of this to, let's say, the second inner portion, seems to be about as high as the top of the peak goes, which winds up being a weak half-inch. So I can almost guarantee a lot of this is going to be done via jump cuts or kind of music montage, not sure which. But I've already rolled out a piece at the 4mm. We're going to keep the same thickness I did before. And I'm going to mark out a little point over there, a little point over here. I can't see my point. And we're just going to cut this thing down to the size it needs. Now, this is going to be done in quite a few different pieces, because if you also remember from way back when I was doing the initial measurements on this, the circumference of this dress is probably going to be something like 18 inches long. And actually, we can give ourselves kind of a rough guesstimate at doing this, because I can just cut an edge off. We're going to want a little square edge there. And just to give a start, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be 7 inches kind of worth right here. And we can kind of count as we go along. So I'm just kind of, I don't know why, I'm just a little curious what this actually is going to be. And it looks like none of these little peaks or valleys goes down anywhere below, say, half the distance of this thing. So let's just go and start kind of a little abstract goings-on this. And I'm going to say at this point now, probably prepare the music for the background, and I'm just going to stop talking because, yeah, this is just going to be some busy work. And there we go. You can see we now have our first pieces cut and ready to go over here. And I'm going to go over the process now of how to actually pop this guy on, which unfortunately I have my big old hand is in the way of the camera. Situational awareness can be hard sometimes. But being as we haven't actually hardened the dress yet, we can just kind of try to adhere it to the unhardened clay that we have as best as possible by pushing it in without pushing so hard that we actually go and ruin the details that we just popped on here. Which, again, as I had mentioned before, these are it's kind of soft detailing on here. There's no hard patterning that goes on. We kind of wanted a system of patterning to go on here, so you can see we didn't actually do things in a regular fashion there, but now we have our basic form is on here. Now we're going to try to scooch this down towards the edges best we can. Again, we're dealing with kind of weird undulations, so sometimes this works and sometimes it just doesn't. But we're going to do the best we can on this to make it work and see how we go. This will also help point out any kind of weird flaw areas we have on our dress, kind of down there where we have something that sticks out like that. We can just get our knife out here and just cut those off. And in the end, we're going to have a nice looking piece. All right, camera, make sure you stay zoomed. We can do this. All right, as you can see, we weren't exactly kind of towards the bottom for now, so we're just going to pop this off again and give this another shot. The less amount of trimming we have to do on this, the better. It saves a lot of frustration not having to trim stuff if we don't have to. However, we are kind of hooking into a weird kind of diamond piece. We do have to do a little trimming on this to make it fit a little more appropriately. So let's see if we can get this to pop out. Come on, you can do it. That kind of worked, maybe. Did it work? Oop. All right. Let's get in there. Get in. Nope. Nope. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yes. Okay. It wasn't the prettiest of cuts, but we can work with that. It'll be all good. Oh dear, what happened to that? All right, good. Good. That popped right back up again. But that's pretty much part number one. Kind of in here, need to push down a couple little sections. Yep, right there, I saw that kind of coming out. Yeah, once we get a couple of these guys kind of pushed on, then it's time to jump onto the next section. And it's kind of one of those rinse and repeat kind of deals. And now with this in place, let's go move you out of the way and cue the music. All right, and there we go. So that's generally the process we're going to be using for that, in that I'm going to lay out one strip like I did here, get it all done, get the next strip kind of laid out so that we know that the seam here is going to line up with the detailing and whatnot. So I'm not going to actually install this one yet. I'm going to get the next one started so that this part here will line up. Once we get that started, I can install this, and so on and so forth. We're just going to continue our way around all the way to get to the end. So that's how that's going to work in the end. And in fact, I'm looking on my little kind of 3-inch by 4-inch screen on my computer right now, And I can't really see it on there, but in real life, this actually adds quite a bit to this whole area. It kind of really finishes it off. So, yeah, I think we're just gonna, rather than showcase anything else, just gonna go with that. And we're gonna pop away real quick and come back. That'll be done. And we can start actually working on the framing of our wings going on over here and get that going, because that is going to make a huge difference on this whole model. We've been kind of looking at the same general form for a while now. This is going to change everything. So hang tight. I'll be right back. And we're back. And as you can see, we finally finished off the rest of the frieze. There's kind of the fringe work that kind of came down here. It's all in, it's done, it's finished, it's blended off. And for all intents and purposes, the main sculpt is now ready for hardening. Yes, I'm going to do a couple little touch-ups here and there, but it is now ready for hardening. And it is good to go. And I believe I had mentioned it last time that I was going to count the length of this whole frieze together. And it wound up being approximately 29.5 inches of material to go all the way around this dress, which I'm kind of laughing because my own waist is a 32. I've been wearing a 32 for the last 25 years, so she may only be a 5-inch tall figure. Her dress is just about the same size as me. So that's why I keep saying this is kind of massive in here. Now, going forward, now this part is done, I'm going to assume that I've eliminating a lot of the video footage just went into making this part. There's a lot of repetitious stuff. So I'm going to assume there's still quite a bit of time left on this video. And we're going to go ahead and start doing at least the engineering out and figuring out these wings that are going in. Because they're going to be pretty beefy. Just to give you an idea, we're going to jump off the webcam real quick. If we go by, say, this image over here, the wings are approximately 11 inches long, which, again, if we come out, that means these wings are going to come out to about, I might put it this way so we don't have the tag on there. That's going to come out to about here, which is kind of big. Now, if we come and look at this view, which is now rendering from, the previous one was, I guess, a concept art rendering. This is the one from the actual game itself. The wings themselves on that image are now actually 9 inches long. So that actually is just about the length of this. That comes out to about here, but they're also a little beefier. The other ones were longer and skinnier. These are a little shorter and beefier. And I think at the end of the day, I'm going to combine both worlds. I'm going to use the 9-inch wing that comes out, and I'm going to kind of give it, hopefully, that kind of skinnier look to it. So how do we make this work? One of the things I can't really do successfully is there are 6 wings that come in the end, and I could make 6 individual poops, stick them in here, and hope they work, except the amount of weight that's going on this. What's going to happen is it's going to pop in here, and it's going to rotate over down. It can fall over. For that much weight going on this, you want to have 2 separate holes going in for each. So I'm not about to make 12 holes in here to make the 6 wings. That's just not going to be an option. There's not enough real estate back here to make that work. Also, in terms of which material I'm going to use for this, we have our standard 12 and 16 gauge wires I've been using for a lot of this stuff. 12 gauge is straight out, but even the 16 gauge is so thick that I would have to end this, say, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch from the end of, say, the feather, or any of the feathers that kind of go out. And what's going to happen then is either during the hardening process or sometime after, just if something touches it, those feathers are going to crack and they're going to break off right where this metal part ends. So for longevity on this and just chancing it, even the 16 gauge is going to be too thick. So that brings us down to the 26 gauge I've been using before. Now, I've been using the silver version of that. I do have a separate one here. I used to just call it wreath wire, but now I finally see that it has a number on the tag. It is 26 gauge. And that's much thinner, which is better. It's what we used to do the feathers up top here. The problem is for something this large, let's just take this block of clay on here. We stick that in for something that's going to have a little bit of weight to it. It's not very strong. I'm not sure how much support that's going to give. However, if we take that, we fold it on itself and just kind of twist to get almost a double layer of that, we wind up with one of these guys. And now if I stick this in here and hold it, we actually have a decent amount of strength. That said, it will also, the double layer of that is still going to wind up being thinner than the 16 gauge wire we're using, so I can get this much closer to the edge of the feathers I need to go. So I'm going to be using that as my primary support for these feathers. Again, however, how do we physically attach it? How do we physically attach it to Ultima here? Because, well, we do have to figure that out. And for that, if you had watched the Kai Shulin model I had done before, you saw how I did the ammo belts on the bottom. We're going to be using the same general principle on this as we did on her project. So I'm going to take this 16 gauge wire, which is 1/8 inch thick. I'm just going to bend it around. So we have a little kind of loop here. And we can take that, hold that in place, and we're just going to bend this up. Bam. So now we have a piece that's been bent just a little bit too far. I would like to be at 90-degree angle. And what we have is essentially a little staple. We're going to drill 2 holes in her shoulder blades up here. I can bring this up closer. There are 2 holes in the shoulder blade. We're going to stick this in and essentially staple this to her. And then I can take this rolled over 26 gauge wire and I can wrap this around, kind of wrap it around, bring it out for a wing, bring it back, wrap it around, bring it out, bring it back, wrap it around. And we're going to wind up with something a little bit like this. So if that's going to go in, again, we have now a double layer of the 26 gauge out here. And this is going to be strong enough to hold. I can't slide this thing up and down. It's really steady on here. It has 2 points of contact, so it can't roll down. It can't roll aside. It's going to stay put. And I can then manage these how I want them to go. So that's going to be our general modus operandi for this section. Now, if you remember the numbers I just gave you off the top of my head, you've been doing some math in your head on this, you realize this is going to be a pretty beefy wire going out, because I'm not going to make this out of 6 different wires, because again, 6 different wires may wind up sliding on here. So I'm still going to make this out of a single wire going out, in, out, in, out, in. So what that means is for the wings themselves, I'm going to need approximately 9 feet of wire to get that, plus a little bit extra to kind of wrap around and get stuck on here. So I'm going to be cutting out approximately 10 feet of wire to be using for this thing. And that's just to get the main aspect of these wings. This is just to get the bar that goes out and back. Then once we get to the feathers themselves, we're going to be kind of mirroring, or I'm likely going to be mirroring kind of what I did on these guys. Whereas then take more of this 16 gauge, wrap it around, come out, come back, wrap it around, come back, wrap around, come back. So we might be using, assuming this is what I do wind up with in the end, this could be 25 to 30 feet worth of 30 feet worth of wire in the end, just to hold up these wings and these feathers and get it to work. So once again, now that we kind of have that in place, dealing with 10 feet of wire and just any of these numbers right now is going to be a little large for me to kind of do on this little set that I have going on here. I can't really do it in front of the camera very well, so I'm going to disappear real quick. And I may pop on during the process for little bits here and there, but I'm going to go and make this thing real quick, and then I'll come back when we do. We can start kind of styling and going from there. But that's our game plan right now, and crossing my fingers, this will work in the end, so hang tight. All right, and at this point, we now have this kind of gigantic, ridiculous looking thing. In here, it's done. I used up approximately 10 feet worth of wire going out and back. So now the last thing I really want to get done on this session is just get it drilled off, get it in here so it can stick, and then we'll take it from there. So now we're going to be heading into the shoulder blades on her. It starts out in the upper kind of portion, which is actually kind of nice and fantastic because that's the widest portion we have in here. So I can stick it in, so it actually gives me some material to go off of. And we're going to be sticking it kind of on the bottom there. And even if some of this winds up looking a little funky in the end, keep in mind she will have hair coming down on top of this, which will wind up hiding that whole thing in the end anyway, if something winds up being a little funky in the end. So it is nice having a little bit of a backup plan in case something doesn't quite seem right. Okay, so I want to be right around there. Let's not go too far down. Let's not push too hard on her there. All right, so there's one. You're gonna be, nope. You're gonna be there, so I come back through. Okay, that feels like it sticks right there. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm sure it makes weird noises when I blow this stuff out on camera. And now the trick is, did I drill them straight? Is this thing straight? Thankfully, the shoulders are hardened already, so I can push on them. And I would like to get this in. And, well, that's going to take a little bit of finagling. So, you know what? I'm going to deal with finagling that off camera. That's when it's going to give a kind of finishing shot on what this is going to be right now. So we have, this is just as a real quick, not really counting for anything, go at it. Whoop. I see you have fallen out of the hole you were kind of going into. I can get at least one of them in. Now this is a tight fit, which is good. That's getting these things in the first time is always the trick. But by and large, that's kind of what we're dealing with. This is about to change in a big way. So that's where we are now. And next time we'll finish structuring this out, get kind of the feathers kind of structured in, and we're going to start hopefully adding some, we will be adding some clay to at least one of them. And then, yeah, we'll take it from there. But no, big changes happening. Big changes. We're in a good place. I'm liking it. And that's where we are. And until next time, enjoy.